KMC has been around for more than 45 years, and we've served generations and generations of families.
If you're a newcomer here, you need a lot.
We advocate for the client. What we do if they have that barrier is, again, empower them, empowering them by advocating for them. The work that I do with KMC is really tied into my personal migration story. I immigrated to Canada here alone. I had to adjust to a completely new community and environment. But what really hit me hard is the social isolation. And eventually, I found an organization that really helps newcomers like myself before, and that really opened my eyes about two things. That first, that there are supports available. And second is that a newcomer and immigrant does not have to go through this journey alone.
Welcome to Thrive in Canada, the show where we connect newcomers and longtime residents to the services, stories, and support systems that help us not just to survive, but thrive in our new home, Canada. I'm your host, Cherie Mercado-Santos, and in every episode, we talk to people on the ground, those who are working to make life easier for newcomers and longtime residents alike. In this episode, we shine the spotlight on a community organization that's been quietly making a big impact for decades, Kababayan Multicultural Center. They've been serving newcomers for over 45 years, long before hashtags, long before immigration trended. And today we're sitting down with Rizza Solis, one of the voices leading that legacy forward. We're going to talk about the Filipino immigrant journey, among others, the quiet struggles, the strength it takes to start over, and the systems that we can tap so that we're not doing it alone. We'll ask Rizza for actual cuentos from the people that they serve. And Rizza, you also had a show before in Filipino TV, so welcome. Yes. Welcome back.
Thank you so much, Cherie, for inviting me to your show and Filipino TV as well. It's great to be here.
First, tell us about a quick overview of the Kababayan Multicultural Center, what it is, who do you serve, and I guess what makes it unique.
So Kababayan Multicultural Center is a nonprofit organization. And as you've mentioned, we've been around for more than 45 years. It was established in 1977 and we're funded by the government. And basically our core services is to provide settlement and employment support for newcomers and immigrants. In addition to that, we have targeted programs for equity deserving groups, such as seniors, women, and youth. And so we do that through one-on-one needs assessment and referrals, supportive counseling. We offer a lot of information sessions, but at the same time, we provide a lot of community connection activities, making sure that every client and community member can, feel that they belong here in Canada.
So even if the name is Kababayan Multicultural Center, it's not just for Filipinos.
Yes, that's exactly right. So it's still mostly Filipinos that we see, but we see a lot of Spanish-speaking communities. And because one of our offices is situated at Parkdale in the downtown Toronto, so we see a lot of Nepali communities coming to us as well for services.
But it's good that there's, a settlement service organization that really caters to majority the Filipinos.
Yeah, that's right.
Because I still believe it's an underserved community, especially with a growing number of Filipinos in Canada.
I know.
We're, I guess, over 1 million now in the country.
Yeah, and even though we're one of the biggest populations, right? We're not really known. We're always working at the back end, running the system. We're taking care of other people in whatever fields they join, from healthcare, agriculture, customer service. And it's truly important to have that community hub and a resource space where our kababayans can definitely get information and support. And again, that community connections. And Kababayan definitely offers that.
Despite the diversity in Canada, and so sometimes when I see programs or when I see just representation, that when you see Asians mostly, or maybe Southeast Asians, it's not really the Filipino face that's representing it. No?
Yeah.
Like the East Asians and the Chinese are well represented. What have you observed are the most pressing issues of Filipino newcomers in Canada?
That's a great question because there's a lot. What we're really seeing right now is that, as you know, a lot of Filipinos came here under temporary status, right? Either they're an international student, a temporary foreign worker. And so given the changes that happened recently with regards to immigration policies and their stay here, their situation is really at stake. Just because they're finding ways on how to stay here in Canada. Clients, Filipinos, come to us asking for that support. We've also seen actually a trend, an increase in inquiries in terms of digital coaching, just because most applications and even applying for benefits and government services are being done online. We've seen a lot of clients come to us needing help in as simple as opening a PDF or sending an email or attaching a document. But one of the biggest challenges that we've also seen right now is in terms of housing and employment. We've seen a lot of our Kababayans come to us who couldn't afford actually to pay their rent, who's looking for financial subsidy to help them. And in terms of employment, they pretty much want to have a stable job here in Canada. And so we've seen a lot of our Kababayans find that job that's meaningful for them and not just any survival job.
The digital challenges, it's very different in the Philippines, the system here in Canada. Like, there's a way of doing things within the Canadian system that could be intimidating for newcomers here, because as you said, no, they don't know how to maybe fill up forms. And these are even the well-educated Filipinos, and it's not their fault. Like, sometimes it makes them feel insecure. Like, why can't I even fill up a simple form? It's okay because things are really different here.
That's true.
I guess these are just the little nuances that Filipinos who have moved here experience. But when they come here, what do you notice are they most unprepared for?
Yeah, that's a great question. Just because when you're back in the Philippines and you're thinking of immigrating to Canada, there's this dream, right? Of, okay, like, I'm immigrating with my family. Canada is really an ideal place to start my life, pursue all my dreams. And that's completely fine. But in reality, especially with the situation that's happening right now, there's a lot of changes that happened in the immigration and settlement sector, and even the needs of newcomers and immigrants. And so when they come here, sometimes they feel that Canada painted a picture that's not really aligned to what they thought of. And so when they come here, they find themselves really having difficulties in looking for a job, in creating those networks, in finding housing. And that's something that I really wanted for those who were planning to immigrate here to really prepare for, right? Is that there are challenges that newcomers and immigrants face, that it would be very, very helpful if they are prepared to immigrate here and prepare all of those things even before they come here.
How do you think can they do that?
I think not a lot of people know, but the government of Canada actually funds pre-arrival services. So pre-arrival services means that even if you're still not yet here in Canada, you can access those services to help you get information in terms of your settlement and employment. And so most of those services are online. And if you actually go to the Government of Canada website, specifically the IRCC website, you can find a list of organizations to do that. And this is all for free. And people can actually access it online.
And the Kababayan Multicultural Center is part of that?
So,
part of those,
no.
With the pre-arrival or no? Okay.
No, we don't. However, when they come here, we do provide that support. And that's why our core clientele are newcomers and immigrants, because once they've come here and they want to get settlement support, they can definitely come to our office. And what's great about our services is that in addition to providing in-person services, we also provide virtual services as well. So even though they're far away from our location, they can still access our program.
And that's a very important nugget of information to know about, that even before you arrive in Canada, you can actually access pre-arrival services from the IRCC website itself, because you do want to get credible information. With the influx of so many information now online, we're not saying everything is fake news out there outside of IRCC or outside of the government portals. There's a lot of content creators that give very good information, but if you have no idea yet about how you're going to settle in Canada, for example, or you're new here, it's best to always double check the actual sites of government agencies.
That's right. And that's what we're also really promoting for at Kababayan Multicultural Center, because our team, who have technical expertise, graduated from social worker, social services background, we do rely on a lot of government-funded supports that the community members don't know about. And so we get our information accurately and 100% reliable. And with regards to, you mentioned that our Kababayans can get information in terms of settlement in influencers and social media. That's great, because there's a lot of our Kababayans who are willing to help out. But again, each and every immigrant's journey is different. And so one challenge that an immigrant is facing or a newcomer is facing might be different for another. And them accessing supports might be different for another one. So it's really best to go to government-funded websites, and access, again, reliable supports and information to settlement organizations funded by the government.
Sometimes when you get here, there are things that you can, and there's a lot of things that you can prepare beforehand. Knowing job searches, for example, some of those things you'll have to do when you finally get here. But a lot of those things are also best done before you get here. Also because when you get here, there's so many other things that you have to prepare for. While you're in the Philippines, you might still have big chance you still have the support of your extended family. You still have a place to, like, for example, leave your children with while I do my research and do that. So it's really very practical for you to try to access all these pre-arrival services. What are some of those? Let's give them an idea, like searching for housing, searching for schools for your kids, for example.
Yes. In terms of really what you need to prepare before you come here, what I would suggest, especially in terms of employment, it's really to prepare or think about as early as now your long-term and short-term career goals, right? So if, let's say, you are an engineer back home and you would really want to pursue your license here, then again, as early as even before you come here, check what are the requirements for you to become an engineer here. What do you need, or what do you need to have in terms of, getting your license here? And that will really save you time until you wait the last minute and you come here and starting all over again, right? And so in addition to that, one of the things that I also would like to promote is, again, as early as now, before you migrate here, prepare your resume, right? Prepare your cover letter, Canadian style, and you can search up a lot of again, government-funded websites such as settlement.org on Canadian-style resumes and cover letter templates, and so that when you come here, everything is ready. But what I would really like to, promote or really spread awareness is that to access, again, government-funded supports and settlement organizations that are for free for our fellow Kababayans. And so, again, this can be in form of pre-arrival before they come here, and after they arrive here, they can access our organization or even an agency near their area. All they have to do is go to the IRCC website, and there's a search box in there. They can type a settlement organization near them, and they can access and go there for support.
How will they know if the organization they're searching online is government funded?
So it's really going to the IRCC website itself, and they provide a list of the agencies they're funding for. That's because
again, that's something new for Filipinos who have lived in the Philippines or who are coming from the Philippines and have no idea yet about the system in Canada.
Right.
Because in the Philippines, it's very clear. We do know the agencies under the government.
That's right. Yeah.
It says Department of Social Welfare.
Yeah.
And then under that, there are agencies. Maybe it will be a lot if it's already 10. Like there'd be like 5 or 6 agencies under that, which everyone pretty much knows that is under the government.
Yeah.
The government doesn't really fund other organizations to provide the services. So it's a difference in model.
Yeah.
So here, again, like what Rizza said, you can go to the IRCC website and they will have a list of the organizations that they fund. And
That's
those
right.
are the ones that you can trust.
Yes, that's right.
Okay. So let's go to the youth. Kababayan has a, let's call it KMC. Is that what we call it for short?
Yes.
Okay, so Kababayan Multicultural Center, KMC, you have a youth program. And let's talk about Filipino youth. What are the biggest challenges that Filipino youth who move here face?
That's a great question, just because the Filipino youth have very unique challenges compared to other newcomer immigrant youth that we see. And so, for instance, most of the Filipino youth that we're seeing are youth who came here with, under the caregiver program, and their mothers under the caregiver program. Because several years ago, when the caregiver program was booming, a lot of Filipino women arrive here, and they leave their families back in the Philippines. So mother arrives here alone, and then after several years, that's when they only reunite with their family. So they bring in their husbands, they bring in their children back here. And then from there, you'll definitely see the challenges already, just because even research and studies have shown that prolonged family separation really cause tensions in the family. And once the family is here, newly arrived, I want to say that they're still in the honeymoon phase, right? They're enjoying what Canada has to offer. They spend together as a family. But then reality kicks in. Reality kicks in that the mother has to go back to work. The husband has to find a job already. And here comes the youth who is trying to navigate their new environment while fulfilling also the expectations from the family. Some families actually expect their youth to work and to contribute to household expenses. Some of our youth that we see have less time spent with their parents, just because they're working multiple jobs at the same time. And so we're seeing a lot of challenges in terms of transitioning to post-secondary education, depression, even bullying or negative behaviors happening in school. And so we have a lot of clients come in asking for mental health supports and even family counseling, because all of these issues are happening in the clients that we see.
There's a lot of layers
Yes.
in that story. And it's good for us in the Filipino community to know that, because whenever we come face to face with a youth, for example, moved here, even until 5-6 years that they've been here, they're still struggling because there's so many layers.
Yeah.
Just being a teenager
Yes.
has its own set of challenges already. And then moving to Canada at that phase, at that age, and then you haven't been with your mom, for example, for close to a decade or so, like between, lucky if they get them in 3 years, maybe 4, 5, 6 years. There's that relationship between you and your mom. Like, do you still know them? That's been a big chunk of time that you weren't with them anymore. And some of them do develop certain emotions that maybe they don't understand. Maybe they resent the fact that their mom weren't there when they had their first period, for example. They had their first boyfriend. They had all of these things happening to them. Plus, there's also the complexity of the relationship between the mom and the dad, which we all know affects children. So there are a lot of layers to that.
Yeah, definitely.
And then moving to a new place, you're a teenager, you're trying to belong, and these people they're nothing at all like you.
Yeah.
And your family maybe back at home expects you to be still retain the Filipino culture.
Exactly.
Magmano ka, or you have to, I don't know, visit your grandparents every weekend or something that your peers don't do.
Yeah, exactly.
You know?
Those are the challenges and the pressures of being a newcomer youth, right? And we've seen time and time again, and it's great that you mentioned about the identity, because that's also what we're seeing in the Filipino youth. Like, I am a Filipino, but I am now living here in Canada. So what does it mean for me? And sometimes pressure from the family and even outside factors they're having a hard time to really, just be themselves, right? And so that's why it's so important for our Filipino youth to have the right supports and community connections, and to feel that they're not alone, to feel that you don't just need information, but you need a community around you to support you through this to this journey.
It takes a village.
It does.
Right?
Yeah.
So we also have to support those caregivers, the parents, the mothers who are working so hard. Maybe we're their friends, maybe we're their neighbors, but it takes a village. I've seen some of those youth from one of your events,
Yes.
and it was very eye-opening talking to them, knowing about their concerns. It's nice that they've become vocal.
Yes.
But I know that not a lot of Filipino youths are vocal about what they're going through. So I've spoken to another Filipino leader who has been kind of pastoring these youth to better mental health situations. And she did say that sometimes teachers think that Filipino students are okay because they smile. When you ask them how they are, they say they're okay. But that's part of our culture.
Yeah.
We don't really just open up to people who ask us how we are. Plus, of course, there's a language barrier. Like, even if they could speak English, there's that insecurity of, I don't speak the same English as they do or the same accent like they do, right? So that is so complex. But like, what are some of the things, the activities that KMC does for youth?
One of the things that we also offer is a mentoring component. So we really make use of the volunteers that we have at KMC. Most of them are youth. And these are established immigrant youth who are willing to mentor newcomer youth as well. And so this way, we're able to, again, provide that community connection support, walk through the Filipino newcomer youth's journey, that, again, you're not alone on this. And whatever you're facing, we have supports for you, and that you're not alone too. So those are just some of the things that we offer our youth.
Can I ask you for some stories, some cuentos of, they could be success stories that KMC have encountered, just to give us a little bit more of an overview on what Filipino immigrants are going through, and what support can help.
One of the stories that I can share is that one of our clients, she's a single mother. So she came to Kababayan, and she has two children. One is 19 years old and one is an 18-year-old. And so they needed help in terms of enrolling their children to school. And so with the younger youth, the 18-year-old, the advice of the school for her is to actually go to an adult school just because she's already 18-year-old. But the youth is not comfortable just because she wanted to be with her peers and with her age. And so she's actually willing to again, go to a high school here. And again, that highlights really the importance of having that community connections, right? And so what our counselor did, was to advocate for that client. And she explained to the school on behalf of the client that she needed to be among her peers, that she can postpone going to an adult school and can go, in fact, to a high school. And it was a success story because the school said, yeah, okay, we can arrange that. And so now she's thriving in that school. She made a lot of friends. And so that's just one of the stories that we have. Again, just really highlighting the importance of helping clients access settlement support, but at the same time, making sure that they're connected with the peers and the community around.
Right. I noticed, and correct me if I'm wrong, that Canada, a lot of the systems here will listen to you. Will try to consider what you're saying.
Yes.
So sometimes it's a matter of getting the support or the help in expressing that need.
Yes.
And maybe I'm really thinking that a lot of us are missing out on this support because we don't ask for help. when there are things like maybe sometimes they go to you, for example, and they tell you their situation, maybe they don't even know the realm of possibilities that could be done to help them.
Yeah.
So even if maybe some of those who are watching us right now are thinking, wait, I don't even know what I need. But if you're a newcomer here, you need a lot.
Yeah.
Maybe they can just go to you and ask, this is our situation, this is how we feel. And I'm sure your counselors can recommend, oh, this is probably something that you can access.
Of course, and that's actually the core of what we do, right? We advocate for the client. And so a lot of our clients, a lot of newcomers come to us with language and cultural barriers. And so what we do if they have that barrier is, again, empowering them by advocating for them. And as you mentioned, providing them with opportunities and options that they can access, right, for support. And so, yeah, I mean, they might not know that this can be a pathway, and we are there, or KMC is there to provide that information to them.
And you have another story.
Yes.
I want to hear that.
Yeah, I have another story. And this is actually one of my favorite stories, just because in KMC, we just don't only see clients and provide support, but when clients come to us and community members comes to us, they have a chance to have their voices heard. Because a lot of our clients and community members actually become volunteers of our organization. And so one example is that we have a member on one of our women's group who has been a volunteer for 16 years already at Kababayan. And so she accessed Kababayan services when she was a newcomer, years ago when she was a caregiver. And then when she attended the group sessions, she felt that, hey, like, I can be here, like, I'm enjoying my time here. And so from a client, she then became a volunteer by facilitating group sessions, and by supporting our seniors program, and even by doing outreach and promoting KMC to others. So she was sort of like an ambassador for KMC at that point. And the success here is that she actually eventually became our board member, our board of director, because she had that lived experience of being a client, and she knows what the clients are going through. And because of that, she was able to, again, be a leader on her own right and make sure that she's representative of the clients that we're seeing when she became a board member.
Two things I still want to discuss. You mentioned about seniors. Of course, they also need services. So I want to get into that, and also for the housing support that you can give, because it's one of the major concerns of a lot of not just newcomers, but those who have been living here for a long time. But yeah, let's go first to the senior citizen support.
Yeah. So in terms of senior citizen support, that's actually one of our most active program at Kababayan, just because we see a lot of seniors come to our center.
That's good news.
Yeah.
At least they know that they can access this. Most are Filipinos?
Yeah, all of them are Filipinos.
All of them
actually.
are Filipinos. Okay.
And what I really like about, them coming to Kababayan is that they consider Kababayan as their second home. Most of them have their family members. Their family members are already gone. And sometimes you're gonna hear heartbreaking stories. Niloko sila ng sarili nilang ng families. Iniwan na sila ng family members nila. And so they really seek out that community support just because they're fighting social isolation. And that's what really Kababayan is there for, right? Is to provide them, again, that community, not only the space, but network that if you're here at Kababayan, you can be heard, and you can be with your peers, and you have something to give to the table. And one example that I really like to share is that last year, we have this initiative in partnership with TCDSB. So they have this youth camp for Filipino students. And what we did is that we involved 18 of our seniors to to provide mentoring to those youth. They actually taught Filipino folklore, language.
That's beautiful.
Yeah, and it was such an interesting and really a valuable experience for both parties. Because again, seniors were able to share their wisdom, and at the same time, Filipino youth are able to learn from their nakakatanda, right? And to be able to tie in with their Filipino identity.
And who best to talk about Filipino folklore
Right?
than your elders? It's just a different feel hearing it from a lolo or a lola. When they tell you stories, I grew up with my aunties and my grandparents, not just the direct grandparents, but the uncle grandparents, the siblings of the direct grandparents who tell us all these stories and all these myths. And as a culture, we are verbal storytellers.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Like a lot of our history may not be there in the books, just like the Europeans are, for example. That sometimes I envy the way they document so many of their history. Like sometimes, excuse me, like sometimes when I go to the libraries, I wish we have more of those sources, even just for our youth to see like the clothes that we used to wear before. Why did it become? Why is this our culture? Why is hiya, for example, nakakahiya or utang na loob? Why are they part of our culture? And there's not a lot of literature to be found about that because we are verbal storytellers.
Yes.
So there's definitely that value of older people relaying it to the young ones. And that has been a tried and tested formula in a lot of countries in Europe when they merge the older ones with the younger ones, the daycare with the seniors' homes.
Yeah.
You know, because there's just beauty in those two generations putting them together.
Yeah.
There would be conflict with the middle generation if you put them there. The mom and the child, for example, right? There's that tension because there's that overbearing presence of the parents. But when it's the grandparents and it's the child, there's just, I don't know, there's just beauty in those two generations together, right?
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, it's actually so refreshing to see also personally, just because again, there's a lot of wisdom that our elders, our nakakatanda can share, right? And not only in terms of folklore, but in terms of life experiences. And so even though newcomers' experience might be different from 30 years ago, there's still some wisdom that the elders can share to our Filipino youth, right?
For sure.
And so it's really beautiful to see that relationship. Yeah.
Just a little side cuento. One of the things that I found beautiful about Hawaii is in the museums, in the historical places, the senior citizens are the ones in volunteering in the reception area or as tour guides. And they tell the stories so well. And it's just like listening to, again, your grandparents. That's where they put the senior citizens. They give them that role of, running all these historical places because they're the credible ones to hear it from, right? Okay, so let's now move on to housing. So we know that is a major concern. The statistics say more than 50%. 50% at least of the household income goes to housing.
Yeah.
Some even a lot more than that. Yeah. So what are the Filipino community going through and what are the support that KMC can give in terms of housing?
Yeah, so as I mentioned a while ago, housing is one of the biggest challenges that newcomers face. And we've also seen a lot of that in the Filipino community. One of the biggest challenges is that the rent price keeps increasing.
Yeah.
And some Filipinos, especially those under precarious immigration status, right? International students, temporary foreign workers, it's either they don't have a job or they don't have a stable job and they're here. And so they couldn't keep up with the rising costs of their rent. Another challenge is that newcomers actually are forced to live in unsafe spaces or housing. Just because, again, a lot of there's a lot of landlords here who are not following the rules here in Canada, and just to make some money. And so they, it's a form of exploitation in terms of, promoting or saying that, hey, we have a space here, but you'll pay what, $500 to $1,000 a month, but you'll see that the space itself is not conducive to live in. And so it's really concerning, just because, again, having a place to live and housing is a basic human right. And there's a housing shortage or crisis that's happening. There's not enough spaces available. Again, rising rent. And at this point, newcomers will just grab whatever opportunity or chance they get just to have a space or a house to live in. And so at Kababayan, although we don't have specific support on housing, what we do is that we have strong partnerships with a lot of organizations who provide housing support, such as the Housing Help Center. And we do also invite organizations who can speak for the rights of renters and newcomers in terms of them. And so one of the challenges too is that a lot of them don't know about their rights, their renter rights.
Yes, I was just about to go into that. Yeah.
And so most of them don't know that what the landlord is doing is not right. And so through information sessions that we provide at KMC, they're able to, be aware, that these are my rights as a renter, and I can fight for it, or I can go to a housing help support to have this matter solved.
Do you mind, I don't want to put you on the spot here, but if we can just let them know some of the things that are within the rights as renters, because I also had to go through this. I didn't know that a lot of things about, and I was just swallowing what the landlord was telling me or was giving out, because, well, thought they know better. They're the landlords. I thought it was legal to do all these things until I met a Filipino real estate person who was kind enough to tell me, Cherie, these are your rights. And even then I was uncomfortable to do it because, but this is what he said.
Yeah.
And this is already me. I do research is what I've been doing in my job. And so I get intimidated.
Yeah.
So what more other newcomers?
Yeah. So on top of my head, some of the basic rights, to be honest, is that landlords are actually not allowed to ask for a 1-year deposit even before you rent. And unfortunately, a lot of these landlords do that for newcomers, right? Because they don't have any credit history. And so what they do is that, okay, because you don't have credit history, I'll ask you for a 6-month or 1-year deposit. And it's actually illegal. And so usually a 1 month in the last, first and last month deposit is acceptable, but that big of that long period of securing it is not right. And so another basic right that renters should have is that if they see any what do you call it if they see that something needs to be fixed in their space or in their house, then the landlord should be able to fix that for you. It's not actually the renter's responsibility to do that, but a lot of the landlords actually try to avoid it. And so those are just some of the things that newcomers should be aware of.
I'd like to inject one thing. I just remembered it now. The landlord cannot enter your house unless he has 24-hour notice
There you go.
and an approval from you. But again, check this out. The approval, I'm not so sure, but 24-hour notice, they have to give that to you.
Yeah.
They can't just say, I'm going to go to the house and fix the sink, for example, like in an hour or two. Because sometimes we scramble. We're at work. But my landlord needs me. No, but if he didn't tell you 24 hours ahead, he doesn't have the right to enter the premises, even if it's his, but you are renting it. You are occupying it legally, right?
That's
okay.
Right.
Yeah.
And even, some of our kababayans or newcomers don't know that a lease agreement should be in place. I've heard horror stories that a newcomer comes in and, okay, was offered the place, but there was not any document at all. So it's all verbal, and that's actually not allowed. And it's actually also for the protection of the renter or the newcomer, right? So these are the things that that newcomers or Kababayans should make sure that they know even before they rent a home or a space.
Good, very good nuggets of information. There's still so many other things. Maybe I'm just taking a mental note right now to have one episode on rental rights.
Yes, that would be very helpful.
Yeah. Let us know also if there are things that you want us to tackle in this show. You can just email us. Filipino TV is like, we're in all social media platforms. Maybe not all, but most. At least most of those that we know about. The popular ones, we're all there. YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, we're there. So you just message us if there are any topics that you'd like us to discuss here on Filipino TV. So as final parting words, Rizza, my last few questions for you. What would you like fellow Filipinos, especially those who are watching from outside of Canada, to know before they make the leap?
So I guess my message is to really just prepare. Honestly, for me, migrating to a new country, migrating to Canada, doesn't start from having your visa approved to come here. But it really starts from the thought of even thinking about going to the country, right? And so for me, really just take time to sit down, talk to your family, really reflect on why are you coming here in the first place. And to be honest, there's really no right or wrong answer, right? Every one of us has different goals in migrating or moving to another country. But it's also very important to be able to really sit down and just reflect on what you want out of your migration experience. Because if you want to seek greener pastures, if you want to find your dream job here and really settle in Canada, you really need to prepare. Because like I've been in the sector for almost 9 or 10 years now. And we've seen a lot of newcomers struggle when they arrive here. And so really preparing even before you arrive here is key, right? From preparing your resume, cover letter, from finding about what you need to do to have your dream job here, from really researching the supports that are available. And that's actually goes to my second point, that you don't have to go through this journey alone, that there are supports available for you that you can access for free. And again, Kababayan Multicultural Center is here to help you with that journey and to help you access that information, and to not only access information, but to give you the community networks and support you need to help you feel like you belong.
What about, I'm curious about your reflections after being in this position for 9 years or close to 9 years.
Yeah,
what are your thoughts now that, having been through that?
Like reflecting on it now, I can definitely say the work that I do with KMC is really tied into my personal migration story. I immigrated to Canada here alone, and that's in 2015. And I have no family members, no friends here. And as many newcomers, I have to navigate the new environment, have to look for a job. I had to adjust to a completely new community and environment. But what really hit me hard is actually the social isolation. Because I don't have any connections. I have to navigate all these difficulties alone. And eventually, I found an organization that really helps newcomers like myself before, and that really opened my eyes about two things. That first, that there are supports available, right? And second is that like a newcomer and immigrant does not have to go through this journey alone. And that really shaped my commitment and my personal and professional goal to be working in the sector, to be working in a nonprofit and settlement field, so that I can help our fellow Kababayans. And thankfully, being in this position at KMC, it's truly a rewarding experience, because KMC has been around for more than 45 years, and we've served generations and generations of families. And people come back to us through word of mouth because they can get support and community connections in our agency. And so it's truly a rewarding experience being here.
That's such a beautiful story to end the episode. Thank you so much, Rizza. So where can they contact Kababayan Multicultural Center?
Yes, so they can visit our website, www.kababayan.org. They can also contact us at 416-532-8888. And they can also email us at info@kababayan.org.
Okay, we have covered a lot today. There is no one-size-fits-all solution for starting a new life in Canada, but there are lifelines, just like what Rizza said. And often they come from places like the KMC, the Kababayan Multicultural Center, which is community-led, culturally sensitive, and deeply rooted in the real needs of people who look like us, sound like us, and carry the same hopes that we do. If anything stuck with you today, maybe it's the silent pressure that you encounter every day, or you're a youth stuck between two cultures, know that help exists. And sometimes all it takes is a conversation to find your way forward. Maraming salamat ulit, Rizza.
Thank you,
Solis.
Cherie. Ang bilis nga ng 1 hour.
Sometimes you don't even notice, but thank you. There's so many things that we got from you today, and I'm sure our audience appreciate that as well. We would like to also thank all those who are working in the KMC for the decades of work that you have done and continue to do for our community. And to all our viewers, especially Filipino newcomers who may be watching this with questions, doubts, or quiet dreams, hindi kayo nag-iisa. You're part of something bigger. Join us again next time on Thrive in Canada, where we tell stories of resilience, resources, and real ways we can grow together. Until then, take care, stay inspired, and we'll see you in our next episode.